that's yummy.
Oh, yum, yum, yum.
Oh,
Hello,
is
listeners.
really good.
Matt and I are here at Annual Communication, the 185th?
81st.
181st Annual Communication. We're sitting in the foyer.
Yep.
And
enjoying
we're
some
eating-
pasties from
pasties from Teddy
Wedgers.
Wedgers.
And they are delicious.
Oh, man. What pasty did you go with?
Big cheesy with ground beef.
I got the traditional pasty. Before we get some guests on here, I want to do a big shout out.
Hey, you know what we should do? We each got 2 halves. We should each swap a half.
It's a good idea.
This way we can try 2 of them.
Smart play. That's why you're my co-bros.
Right.
I want to do a big thank you to worshipful brother Jeff. Me, as a terribly irresponsible person, had forgotten the key piece of our equipment for today, which is our recording,
device that we plug the microphones and everything into.
Jeff had to go to my house and go get it, and he brought it to save the day. So big shout out and thank you. I'm an idiot.
You would not be getting content from Annual Communication if it wasn't for worshipful brother Jeff Dealey. So we owe him a huge debt of gratitude.
Absolutely. So we'll hit the music here, and then we'll bring on some guests.
Loosen up your ties and roll up your sleeves. It's time for fellowship with Matt and Andrew. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not necessarily the views and opinions of the Grand Lodge of Wisconsin or any other Grand Lodge or any appended body.
All right, we got our first victim coming down to our booth. Brother, please introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you.
My name is Ben Ritchie. I was raised about 20 years ago in Evening Star Lodge in Darlington. Past master there. Also past master of Warren 4 in Potosi, current secretary there. I joined because my dad joined just a few years beforehand.
Okay.
And he absolutely fell in love with it.
Right.
Would come I was still in high school at the time. He would come home and from meetings and just talk about it nonstop, couple hours. You know, he'd talk about every meeting for days.
Yeah.
And he turned out to wound up becoming Grand Master last year.
Right.
Dave Ritchie.
Yep.
And,
love Dave.
He very well liked. I go around these and it's like, and people still talk about him and talk about how much they respect him.
Yeah.
That's one of the words I hear all the time is how much they respect him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, that's definitely that's a mutual feeling. I've gotten to know Dave better since he got out of the Grand East because I'm on the Wisconsin Masonic Journal Board. So we have a lot more conversations now than we did during that time. But yeah, respect is definitely the right word for, how I feel and how I've heard a lot of people feel about him. So
I always like how he's a poetic soul somehow. Like, it's fun about him. Did he tell you that I trapped him yesterday? I tell him about all my plants that I've been putting in my yard. I was like, I got raspberries. I got this. And he's like, okay.
You tell everybody about your plants these days.
I'm big into it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he was, I believe he had his Master Gardener license for a while and actually got me into gardening.
Yeah. You put any cool plants in this year?
I did, and actually I actually just completed my greenhouse a few weeks ago.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
Well, 6x16.
I keep just trapping people in plant conversations.
Right. So, outside of your dad, after you joined Freemasonry, what kept you here? What kept you coming back? What made you want more?
I'm sure it's what you guys hear all the time. It's the guys. I meet people I never would have.
Right.
In fact, because Darlington doesn't have a lot of jobs in it, I had to go elsewhere to start a career.
Right.
And I didn't like the town I wound up in, but so while looking for a way to get out of that town, I found a little place in Potosi.
Okay.
And I'd gone there a few times to lodge, and I really liked the guys.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the deciding factors into buying that house was the guys in the lodge.
That's
who I'd
awesome.
gotten along with before.
Isn't it amazing how you can just travel like that, pop into a lodge and go, and now I have friends? You can't do that anywhere else. It's hard making friends.
No, and I never would have met not just the guys in Potosi, who I would never have hung out with a lot of them,
Right.
but the guys in Mineral Point, Dodgeville, Linden,
Yeah.
in Prairie du Chien.
Right.
I never get up to Prairie du Chien otherwise,
Right.
but I know these guys,
Yeah.
and it's...
Well, and you meet people from like all walks of life, all over the place. If it wasn't for Freemasonry, Andrew and I, our paths would have never have crossed.
It's one of the things that I'm the previous secretary. He was in the spot for like 30 years,
Right.
and
Yeah, once you're secretary,
was-
you're secretary for life. You know that, right?
The life sentence.
one of the guys in lodge, Davey White, also passed grand. He jokes about how. The record is 30 years. How old will you be in 31? But previous secretary, Roger, he took a liking to Davey, as most people do,
Right.
and he got Davey his job as a machinist at a factory in Dubuque,
Okay.
Iowa. It's about half an hour from Potosi.
Okay.
So, nice commute.
Yeah.
Well, about 10, 15 years later, here comes this young kid looking for a job. And so Davey was able to get me my job there in Dubuque
Nice.
at AY.
Nice.
And I worked my way up. Now went from production to maintenance. I've got a career instead of a job.
Right on.
And the other thing Roger did was he also did a bunch of real estate. Mm-hmm. So he developed the house that I live in,
Oh, nice.
and he's now passed.
Okay.
But I never would have met him
Right.
had it not been for Lodge.
Right. Yep. That's awesome. That's actually that's a really fun story.
It is. Well,
And
we're doing quick hitter interviews, so I'd like to thank you for coming in, and I think that's an amazing story.
well, thank you very much.
Well, hello. We have another guest coming on with us. Brother, can you please introduce yourself and just give us a little info about what lodge you're from and what brought you to Masonry?
Okay, my name is James Bonine. I'm past master of the Dells 124 in Wisconsin Dells, past master of Redlands 300 in Redlands, California.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, I moved out here about 8 years ago, so I was raised in California and went through the chairs.
Sure.
And it's been real interesting to see the difference in the ritual and the way things are done.
Now, if you had to pick, which ritual do you like more? I'm going to assume it's the one that you were raised with, would be my guess.
That is usually a good assumption.
Yeah.
There are certain key parts of that I do like, and there are other parts that I like in the Wisconsin ritual as well.
Sure. Would you say the work is very different or just small parts are different?
Just small parts are different. The main story remains the same. There's just maybe a sentence here or it's done a little different.
Yeah. Now, here's a hard question. So I found out the other day that some jurisdictions carry their rods differently. Does California carry the rod the same way where we tuck it under our arm, or do they do it on their shoulder?
No, they tuck it. They tuck it, and you got to carry it at the 45.
Yep, same as us. Well, that's cool.
Yes.
What originally got you interested in Masonry?
My grandfather was a Mason, and he was a Shriner and a Scottish Rite. He was a 32nd.
Okay. So you joined Masonry in California, moved here, joined up at the Dells. What keeps you in Masonry?
The camaraderie, just the fellowship, the brotherhood. When I moved out from California, I knew nobody. But the minute I walk into a lodge, it's old home week. Hello, how's it going? Slaps on the back. How's it? It's a wonderful reception. And I think that is one of the best testimonies to Masonry there is this fellowship that you have around the world.
I always like to think of it a brother is just a friend you haven't met yet. And so when you show up to a place, you're like, oh,
Definitely.
and I have friends. And you're like,
Yeah.
copy and paste. How would you say Masonry has influenced you as a person? I like that's hard questions.
Yeah, no, it's helped me to be a little bit more open to some other things.
Sure.
You know, we have a guy in our lodge whose holy writings is the Zohar,
Okay.
and we have a guy he's been interviewed, and we're getting ready to set up his EA, and he's going to be using the Bhagavad Gita.
Sure.
So, yeah, knowing all these other things, I like this.
Yeah, it helps you like actually cross into different groups of people that you would never have maybe crossed into before if you weren't a Mason, because people of various faiths, backgrounds, socioeconomics kind of put up illusionary boundaries between each other,
Yeah,
and Masonry tears those down.
I like the idea that you can have the bank president in the lodge, but his janitor's the master, and he's got to listen to his janitor.
Yeah, right. All on the level.
Yep. Sorry, I've been kind of quiet on this one because these pasties they're hidden.
Yeah, they look real good, I'll tell you.
Our new sponsor, Teddy Wedgers.
Right. Right. We're going to have to talk to them about doing some advertising, I think.
Yeah, let's go in there, put a mic in their face, and say, "Why did you start doing Teddy Wedgers?"
Right.
Well, brother, we really appreciate you popping in and doing a quick interview with us. So thank you.
Okay, no problem.
All right, we have another very special brother coming down. I think you'll recognize this voice. You heard it at the start of the episode.
And on an episode
Yeah, he's
before.
been on the podcast as well. Brother, can you please introduce yourself?
Well, I don't know if you've heard me before, but
No, you've got Kirk Campagna here today. We're passing by you guys, and boy, you guys are working so hard and greeting everyone and really having some good conversation with some really good Masons out there. So I said, I've got to come over and see how they're doing, and they invited me to sit down and chat with them.
Well,
So
we
I'm
needed
honored.
somebody to come over and screw it all up for us.
Well,
so.
that's my job. That is my job. I am your man if you need that screwed up. I volunteer, thank you.
So, brother, what would you say, what's the day in the life for you at Annual Communication? I know you were mentioning starting early. How? And what have you been enjoying about it this year?
Well, I'm with the stage crew here with the tech, and so for us, we've got to get everything prepared, all the microphones, the lighting as best as we can, make sure that everything is where it needs to be. And so if we have videos that need to be ran or microphone checks and everything else, it's a large room. So we have huge echoing issues and whatnot that we have to deal with. So we like to test it out the best we can before we actually get to the actual event.
Yeah, right.
And so it's a lot of testing. And we're also here for the other Grand Lodge officers. A lot of requests come in, especially last minute. All of a sudden, can you do this? Can you do that? And so for us, we work hard during the day. And we're kind of geeks, nerdy guys, and so we play cribbage at night and drink a little bit.
What's your record for cribbage right now? Who's winning?
Well, I'm not liked as much because I think I'm up 4 games out of 5. I think I'm skunking these guys.
That's fair.
It's not on purpose. They keep moving the board constantly, thinking. They were saying things like feng shui and all this stuff, thinking that if they move it one way, maybe I won't win this time. But I've been pretty lucky, and they're so generous. You gotta love her brother.
Do you play Muggins?
No.
Oh.
But it's just for fun, and we have some fun with it. But it allows us to just have some traditions.
Right. Yep.
And it allows us to have some fun and to kind of take a step back and relax. While a lot of the groups are out there, wanting to hoopla, stay up late, we're thinking and talking about what we have to do tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah, sounds more productive than my evening.
It's a working week for us.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of traditions, like your cribbage tradition, what do you think your favorite lodge tradition is that you've experienced?
I would say... And I guess I brought this up when we're celebrating our 120th this year.
Congratulations.
I was helping out with the 110th, and I was asked to speak. And at Damascus, number 290, we have a tradition of having a dinner beforehand.
Yeah.
And it's not a charged dinner. It's just a dinner. So if you ever come visiting, please let us know ahead of time. We usually have plenty of food, but if you're coming as a group, it's always respectful to do that. So we have enough food. It's important. And I try to explain, it's not about the food. It's about who's sitting at the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I believe my favorite tradition with our lodge is truly the fellowship that you have while sitting at a table. And that goes for every family, too. It's our great traditions.
Yeah.
I think that we in our day and age with our electronics everywhere and everything, we lose that ability to sit down with the family, sit down with your friends, and just
over
don't
breaking
have to
bread.
have a TV, don't have to be watching a movie, don't have to have your iPhones or your whatever you have on, or the kids especially. They don't need the iPads at the dinner table. Let's talk about what we do, how you doing, what's going on.
Talk about what you were watching on your iPad.
Right.
I see so many of these kids now, and they're so glued to their iPads or whatnot, or tablets, and it's just like, no, this is our time.
Yeah.
This is our, and I think that we're too just geared up and too separated. I'm going to go sit over there and watch a movie or watch TV while I'm eating. No, let's get back to having a table.
Yeah.
And that's in the lodge. We need to get back to, that's when a lodge begins to be a lodge. It's not the business meetings.
Right.
It's not that, it's about knowing each other, sharing with each other, and talking.
Right.
And I guess that's my favorite tradition of Damascus. We do it every single time before we have a meeting, we break bread together.
Damascus 290.
Awesome.
It's not just a number. It's a goal.
Yeah.
Damascus 290.
And if you go visiting, they will feed you well.
Oh, Damascus 290. We take the pound sign serious. Damascus 290, putting more weight in Masonry. You see, and that's another part of it, is being able to do that good degree work.
Yeah.
Doing that degree work and doing it to the top of your game, but yet also having fun.
Yeah.
Right.
No one said that because you're in a lodge that you can't have fun too.
Yeah, otherwise
And-
why would you do it?
As long as you do your work,
Yep.
there's time for fun.
Yep.
So, this goes back to, again, we're great at business meetings. No, you get to know each other and get to be able to have fun with each other. Because if that isn't it, then what's the draw of going to lodge?
Exactly. You got to make that a T-shirt. Damascus 290. Adding weight to masonry would be an amazing shirt. That would be
That
an
would be a great
amazing shirt.
It's a great idea, but we decided to chisel it on stone. We got that baby down. And our problem is that some of us are working up to 290 and some of us are working down from 290. Yeah. Awesome. So it's, and if you can't laugh at yourself and find your identity. I mean, we
Right.
found ours.
Right.
And again, I joked with them. I said, guys, it's not about eating. It's not about weight. It's not about food. It's about the fact that you're sitting down to eat at a table together.
No.
That's what makes things important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's way too many things in life to do. I mean, do you have time to go to lodge? Well, there should be a draw for lodge.
Yep.
I enjoy going to see my brothers at the dinner table.
Exactly.
For lodge. That's a draw.
Right. For sure.
I don't know.
Perfect.
Everyone's got their own thing, but
I like it, Kurt. I like it a
I
lot.
just realized it is kind of weird though, because I realized I'm just about at that point where half of my life I've been a Mason.
Happy
Isn't
birthday. Happy Masonic birthday. Is that when you
know,
did
yeah.
that?
Well, it's weird. I mean, we always hear from the old timers, well, I remember all of a sudden I was a young guy, and before I knew it, I turned around and, boy, now I'm the old guy. Well, guess what? I feel like one of those old guys now. It's like, I remember when we used to go to lodge, horse and buggy.
We used to go to the lodge by the moon. Whenever full moon, I knew it was lodge time.
There are
Lodge
still
night.
lodges that meet like that.
I know.
There are.
Yep.
It's true. But it's just kind of weird how the time kind of flies.
Yep.
Think about it. you look up one moment and you're the young guy and you're still trying to learn the parts and you're going through the chairs, and the next moment you turn around and you're like going, wow, I served as worship master when? And how many times?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what a joy it is, to break bread with you guys. You two are just amazing. And just to break bread with all these friends and family here, that's another great thing of the annual communication. Yes, just like Lodge, we have the business to do.
Right.
And we work, but it's the time that we spend away from it. It's probably the most valuable.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
It's
100%
breaking
agree.
bread with our brothers. And that is what is special about the annual communication.
Right.
It's
It's
just a
the
big
sharing.
dinner, a big table.
It's
a big table.
it's a big parking lot masonry event. I mean, I've always said, and the same applies to Grand Lodge, our best work happens outside of the lodge room.
It
So,
does.
In quality time.
Right.
Well, and a Mason is more than just business meetings. A Mason is a way of life. It's a caring
Yep.
ability between a brotherhood and a fellowship between. It's asking the question, how you doing? What's new in your life?
Right.
It's traveling and sharing your story. I mean, that's what Masonry is. It isn't, what's the old business? What's the new business? That's not what Masonry is.
Who wants to read the minutes?
Now, those
Yeah.
green beans today weren't quite up to snuff. I'd like to have a discussion on how we can make better beans.
Let's share the green bean story. and the other thing is, just having fun.
Yeah.
Life is stressful enough.
Right.
And I keep telling these guys, when they ask me at work, what are you doing? All this stuff. You're so involved with this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, because work is work.
Right.
But the stuff outside of work is what makes me me. And with the Masonic community and all the appended bodies, I can also involve my families and my kids, my wife. It enhances my family life. It enhances my life. It allows me to do and has given me opportunities to do so many more things than just working my whole life.
And, I tried to explain to my wife once that it seems like we're working sometimes when you're at Lodge, but I feel like for some reason there's a fulfilling aspect where they don't pay me, and it goes to show that sometimes you don't feel valued at your work all the time. Not everyone does every day.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I would do this for free if you just liked me and told me I did a good job. You're like your Lodge, and that you actually are attached to the mission
You
so
betcha.
closely that you feel fulfillment. You get your corn, wine, and oil from doing Mason stuff. And it's like, I might be working a polling station. I might be doing something like that. And it's like, isn't that just another job? And you're like, well, I like this one, though. And you're like,
It's like the tech work that I am involved with this and with Scottish Rite and some other groups and everything. That's all volunteer stuff. And I've been asked before, how much are you charging? And I'm like, charging?
we can get paid?
I do this as a labor of love because it's my fraternity.
Yep.
And if I'm making a difference somehow in how we're doing things or what it looks like or helping a presentation, then I'm doing the work of the Lodge.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing the work of my creator. I'm giving back. And so it's not about work. It's about a labor of love.
Yeah.
And then that brings me into more of an appreciation of the craft, of my brothers. And it's like being in a family, that we don't do things for family members because we're getting paid.
Right.
We do it because we love them. We do it because we feel obligated. We feel like we're part of this
Same
family,
team.
this connection, this circle. It's the same thing in the fraternity.
Yeah, it's a big family.
It's a big family, and if I can help out with a skill set or help out by volunteering one way or another, you know what? I look at what you two do. You guys do an awesome job
Thank
in
you.
just talking about the craft. And I know you don't do it just, hey, we're hoping to, be mega millionaires.
I've lost so much money.
You know what?
Guess what?
If we could get enough people to listen to the podcast to make us like Joe Rogan rich, I would.
Yeah.
I don't even think we'd be allowed to. We'd have to donate it all.
Let's work on that, huh, guys?
Yeah.
No, the point being, you guys do it because of your love of the craft. You love
Right.
the discussion. You love hearing different opinions, and that is serving a niche in this fraternity that we all need to do. And I'm hoping that people are listening to all of your stuff. Maybe think about the topics you're bringing up in their own mind and you know, what do I think about that? Or maybe enlighten them in a way that they're thinking outside of the box that they were kind of in.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, you guys are breaking down walls.
And I really
But you do it because of a labor of love. I
Yep.
know you two.
All right. Yep.
You guys do it, and that's what we all do. But we're also all having fun.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And when I sat down in front of you guys right now, you know, I knew that I was going to have a smile on my face
and you do.
because here are two guys that I thoroughly enjoy, and I mean that's my family. You guys
Yep.
are family.
Yeah, we're all
So
family.
I appreciate all that you guys do, and we always need to do that too. Is always appreciate all those that work and volunteer. That's important, and I try to do that as best I can.
Yeah, we only get paid in appreciation here, so you got to make sure you're doling out payment.
Hey, I'm telling you, payment in the sign of smiles is not a bad thing. Pay it forward, baby. Pay it forward. So I appreciate you guys, and
Thank you.
Really, it's annual communication can be a special time. I encourage anyone who can make it over here to do so, and to really have an opportunity to really reach out and share with others. So,
Sorry, you had a
got
grand
some-
secretary messing
Hey,
with you.
you know, I'm just saying.
Just like a family.
Exactly. But for our listeners, I needed to say something because you and I are just here laughing after Kurt just said something serious.
You know,
Because the grand secretary's doing ooga booga faces behind him.
you guys put me facing the window, so I can't see all the jokers behind me.
It's probably a good thing.
It's a great thing, because even though there's family, we've got some special family members sometimes in our family. If you know what I mean. Bless their heart.
Right. All right. Awesome. Thanks for sitting
Thanks,
down
guys.
with us for a few minutes, Kurt.
It's always
Appreciate
a
it.
pleasure
Always a
to see you
pleasure.
guys. Love you both. Thank you for all
Love
you
you
do.
too.
Love you too, brother. All right. We have a very special guest joining us today. Could you please introduce yourself and explain a little
Absolutely.
bit about Job's Daughters?
I'm Summer Messer. I'm the Miss Wisconsin Job's daughter.
Awesome. So what got you into Job's Daughters?
My mom was a Job's daughter, and so is my grandma. But I was really intrigued by the leadership and the friendship and all the amazing things that I saw the girls doing. I started kind of getting involved as a 2B when I was 9 years old, and then I was initiated when I turned 10. And right from there, I had so much fun with all of my Bethel sisters. It was awesome.
So we have listeners that are around the world to a certain extent. For someone who doesn't know what Job's Daughters is, maybe, can you just explain a little bit to for our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. Job's Daughters is an organization for girls between 10 and 20. Our job is we teach a lot of leadership, public speaking, community service. We teach like how to run business meetings, how to control finances, all that kind of stuff. Everything that we really need to be the next female leaders that this generation needs.
Very cool. How do you think being in Job's Daughters International has affected you personally? How do you think it has, molded you, I guess, if that's the right word?
It's made me a lot more confident in myself. When I was like 9 and 10, when I first started getting involved, I was not an outgoing person. I never would have done something like this.
Yeah.
And now, this is one of my favorite things to do is talk to people and talk in front of crowds like we saw our Grand Bethel Honor Queen do today.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of fun to do, and it's opened me up a lot more to a lot of things in life. It's made me realize that I want to be a teacher, working with the kids.
Sure. And with that, so you joined what's a 2B?
A Joby?
A 2B.
A 2B?
Yeah.
It is a younger girl who's not quite old enough to join, but we still want her to be involved. So she comes to all the fun things, and then while we have our meetings, she is outside with a couple of the parents doing some crafts and fun things. And the goal is to have a couple of bees at a time, so they're all in their little beehive having fun, and then once they're old enough to join, they can come in and they'll already know a bunch of the girls. And the really only new thing will be the meetings and the business.
What would you say is one of your most memorable experiences from Job's Daughters?
Ooh, it would have to be my very first Jamboree. That is our annual session where we have our Miss Wisconsin pageant and choose our next Miss, and our Grand Bethel installation and choose our next Grand Bethel team. It would be, when I first got there, I was nervous and I was scared. And the current Miss Wisconsin at the time came up to me, talked to me, made me feel really like included and like I was supposed to be there. She let me wear her crown, which she doesn't let many people do. So that stuck to me, and that's the moment that's been in the back of my mind through my entire 10 years now that I've been in.
For our Masonic listeners, what would be a message you would have for them?
Keep doing what you guys do. I love the Masonic family. I think everybody that I've met in the Masonic family is a truly amazing person. It really is awesome to see when you guys help with the youth groups. I'm also a past state sweetheart of Wisconsin DMLA. So seeing the Masons and the Masonic family support our youth group and come help us is absolutely amazing. Even just showing up to a meeting every now and then, we truly do enjoy seeing you guys there, and we love forming these connections and having these conversations.
Awesome. I think that's a great message to leave our listeners with, so that they support your youth groups, get out there, and make this one big happy Masonic family. Cool. Thanks for coming in.
Of course, absolutely.
All right, we have another special guest joining us. Brother, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and your Masonic history?
My name is David Menke. Been a Mason for about 8 years, 9 years, but I have Masonry in my family.
Sure.
Both on my side and my wife's side of the family. Going back to the Ringling Brothers, which were Freemasons.
Are you related to the Ringling Brothers?
Yeah, the Ringling Brothers.
Really?
And it's actually kind of interesting that they had two of the aprons up in Baraboo on display. And one of my aunts found out that I became a Mason and said, I have this apron in my drawer. And come to find out, it was the third apron.
Oh.
Yeah. But, Masonry is just, we're a brotherhood, but we're family also. And my youngest son is in Demo Life.
Yep.
My oldest son was at the crawfish boil last year from Jim McGugan.
Yep.
And requested a petition.
Oh.
And this past September, he did his entered apprentice degree.
That's fun.
So it's really neat. I mean, not only is it brotherhood, but, it's kind of a lineage going on in my family now,
When you're related to someone as famous as the Ringling family and they're all Masons, I feel like there's an obligation to continue that tradition a little bit, too. My senior steward at Lodge is obsessed with the Ringling Brothers. He's gone to all the museums, and he's obsessed with them. And so he's going to be very jealous that I was talking to a relative of the Ringling Brothers.
Yeah, it's on my wife's family side, but still, I mean, it's family.
Family's family. Yep.
And when I found that out, I was like, wow, this is really cool history.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, my uncle, I did a lot of family history genealogy, and, my uncle Edwin, he was a Mason, and then digging through some history, a potentate, which is the whole other family, which I call the family tree, is all our appended bodies, So it's just unbelievable. What you put into it, it's not just a phrase, it's not a cliche, it's true. Yeah. What you put into Masonry is what you're going to get out of it.
You have the ownership over what you want that experience to be. And if you want to have a bad experience, then don't do anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yep.
And what is a little bit disheartening, I will say, is when you see candidates come in, go through their degrees, and just go straight to an appended body. An active, we've heard, an active lodge is a healthy lodge. Well, It's true, because a lodge isn't made of one, it's made of all of us working together towards that common goal.
Yeah.
It truly is. And when you achieve that goal in whatever you're working towards, the payback and knowing that you did it, is so rewarding.
And to your point, so Matt and I, wherever he is, we're Blue Lodge First Masons. So when we have new candidates come through, we basically go, do not even think about appended bodies for 2 years. We're like, you need to really spend time building your relationships in Blue Lodge, because it's going to make you always have a home base. It's like, this is where you go, where it's always the same boys that raised you. It's your buddies. And then if you want to branch out, great, but then you always have your home base.
Correct.
And so we always do that. And I've been active in some appendant bodies, and slowly I just stopped and just went back to Blue and said, I'm going to focus. And I'm senior warden at Lodge right now anyway, so I don't got a lot of time for...
And I can't agree with that more. Take 2 years, focus on Blue Lodge. I cannot agree with that more with what you and Matt believe in.
Yeah.
And that's what actually I was told, because I mean, I meet in the same building as Matt, Lake Lodge.
Yep, same.
Before I still am a member of Damascus.
Yep.
But I pluraled, to another lodge up in Crandon.
Yep.
And I was told by Mick Olson, I believe he's both a member of Lake Lodge and Damascus.
Yep.
And Mick Olson told me, when I came in, he's like, Dave, focus on Blue Lodge for a couple of years, and know the direction that you want to go in your Masonic life, your Masonic career, if you will. And like I said, I've been a Mason for over 8 years, and I've been pressured quite a bit, about Masonic, other Masonic bodies. I don't want to.
Yeah.
This one is cool, or this one is really cool, this one's unique. But you know what? I love my Mason brothers. I don't want to lose that focus.
Yeah.
That right there is just more than enough.
And strong blue lodges make strong appendant bodies. So if they all run away, then you're closing the front door to the ability to even have people come on down.
Right.
And so, I agree that, in my opinion, you should only join an appendant body if you have time to not at the expense of your blue lodge.
Right.
Like, it's additional. But if you don't, then you need to refocus on, the mother of Masonry, and that's the blue lodge.
But your mother lodge, I mean, this is where you're started. This is your roots to everything. And I've heard a saying, stay true to your roots.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you come from? But it's been an awesome experience, and I've had multiple times to become a Mason, and it just didn't work out because of education. And Mick Olson was my police liaison officer when I was in high school.
Okay.
Fast forward years, and I had my youngest son, and when we were at Children's Hospital, they said, you live in South Milwaukee, you can have a free car seat installed by the police department. So I go to South Milwaukee Police Department, have a car seat installed, and lo and behold, it's Mick Olson.
Small world.
And he's installing the seat, and I noticed that he was wearing his Knights Templar ring. And I said, you're a Mason. He said, yeah, what do you know about us? And I kind of just let it all out. He's like, wow, you know a lot. I'm like, yeah, it's in the family. It's in the family. And he's like, why don't we meet up for custard at Culver's?
It sounds like a Mick thing to do.
And nothing's more better than Culver's in Wisconsin and cheese curds and quick trips on every corner and Glazer donuts. Go Pack, go.
Go Pack.
So we did, and we sat and we talked, and he said, I kind of consider this a dating period.
Yeah.
Where we get to know you, and you get to know us.
Yep.
So it's kind of a dating period.
You're going steady.
And it's true. I mean, if your daughter was dating some boy, you'd want to get to know that boy.
Yep.
And hopefully that boy would want to get to know your family.
Exactly.
It truly is. It's kind of like a good way to put it.
You're courting the lodge.
Courting the lodge.
Yeah.
Get to know the lodge. And you know what? Not one lodge is right for everybody, and I've always told the prospective people, you know what, you can always try our lodge, Lake Lodge, West Salis Lodge, try different lodges, see what fits you.
They do the same thing.
Every lodge has a different vibe.
And different people. Who do you get along with?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, kind of back to, we were talking about how I've decided myself to focus on Blue Lodge. And in doing so, I've literally helped other Masons at their homes. Hey, I got a branch that's going to fall on my house.
Yeah.
I'll go over there and I'll cut down the branch for them, So making just Blue Lodge stronger,
Mm-hmm.
So in some way, the other guys that do want to move on, hopefully it makes them stronger as well in the appended bodies.
Yep.
But just focus on just Blue Lodge.
Yep, and have fun.
Yeah. And now my son, coming up, his next step with the FC, it's really cool,
Yeah, that's going to be a fun journey.
there's some beautiful things with his degree stuff, which obviously I can't divulge. But
Sure. Yeah, there could be a very fun Master Mason moment for a dad.
very, very proud.
Yeah.
Because lineages aren't that often anymore.
No, not really. Yeah.
So it is a very proud dad moment. But
yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on and joining us for a quick interview.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Heck yeah. I'll see you around annual.
Yeah. Take care.
Should I come back?
Oh, I'm live? You hit record already? All right. Jim, you're going to want that about a fist away from your mouth. You know, you can bring it closer to you.
Okay,
Andrew can always cut some of this if he needs to, since he just left us in the lurch and disappeared.
Okay.
All right, so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for everybody, what lodge you're from, tell us a little bit about your Masonic history, and we'll go from there.
I'm Jim McGuigan from James M. Hayes 331 and Silas Shepard 1843.
Right on. And you are a past master of the Lodge of Research, correct? Last year, right?
I'm a past master of a couple of lodges.
Right.
Last year I was past master over at I was the master over at Silas Shepard Lodge of Research. It was really gratifying. I loved that job.
Yeah, that seems like it would be a fun place to be worshipful. So what got you interested in Freemasonry?
Oh, it's a long history. I'm the oldest of 6 kids, and when I was in college, I was kind of looking for that big family experience, and I found that in a college fraternity.
Right.
You know, that feeling of brotherhood, that feeling of there's something more than just yourself.
Yeah.
You're looking out for family effectively. And after I graduated from college, I just didn't really have that feeling. I didn't have that kind of social network. And of course, I got married and had a son, but there was still something missing.
Right.
So I joined another organization. We'll just call them one of the animal club groups.
All right, yeah.
And I didn't. It just didn't click. It just seemed to me that it was almost more of a drinking club.
Right.
And so then I went to my own grandfather's funeral.
Okay.
And we were at the cemetery, and as they were burying my grandfather, and he was right next to my great grandfather.
Okay.
And there was my great grandfather George, and he had a square and compasses on his tombstone.
Just a beacon calling to you at that moment, right?
It was. It was a sign. It was something that I needed to look into, and
right.
I didn't immediately jump on it, but it stayed on my mind. And then I had an opportunity when a friend of mine mentioned that he knew a Mason. I thought, let's talk to this guy. So we talked, met him at the lodge, got together a few times, I asked for how I became a member, and I got a petition, and the rest is history.
Right, then there you go. So after you got in, what kept you coming back? What was it about Freemasonry that you went, I want to be here, I want to be involved, I want to go through the officer line, I want to do all this stuff?
I love the concept of brotherly love and knowing that I am part of something larger than myself.
Mm-hmm.
I love the whole story of the Good Samaritan. That was part of my college fraternity from the Book of Luke. And that is something that obviously is Freemasonry. That's something that is heavy in our craft. And so the more I got into it, the more I just felt this is home. This is where I belong.
Right.
And it was a group of men that had the same values as me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was inspired by that. People who wanted to improve themselves, people who were looking for just a group of good people to spend some quality time with who had the same values.
Right on. And then, so you've done a few things, a few fairly large, long-running things, and so tell me some, and I know about it, but I want to hear it in your words, and I want our listeners to hear it in your words. Tell me about the 9 o'clock toast.
Oh, the 9 o'clock toast. Well, it's interesting because back in 2020, I was master, and I was very excited about that. I'd gone through a couple chairs, and the lodge had decided to elect me as master, and I had a great plan. My whole year was laid out.
Right.
And and we had a very aggressive start. We had a big giant party. There were probably close to 150, 200 people at my installation. It was
nice.
Big.
Yeah.
It was a real hooey.
Right on.
And then a week later, we had pizza with Santa. We put on a crawfish boil. It was great. And then COVID was coming on.
Right.
But we didn't know how hard it was going to hit the public.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, wham! It hits. All lodges are closed. It was crushing. It was absolutely soul crushing because I was the master, and we had 3 guys who were all going to go in. And I can remember sitting in my car at the time. I was on a business appointment, and I was excited about these 3 guys that were going through. And I got a call from our district deputy. It was Jeff Teeley at the time.
Yeah.
And he said, "Hey, Jim, I got some news for you. We got to close down. The pandemic is just too much." And I can just remember, I'm like, no. It was it was just painful. And I was just like beating on the steering wheel with my fist, like it's just tearing me apart. And I thought, there has to be something. Like I've worked so hard to pull the lodge together. There was so much of my heart and soul that I had dropped into this. Right. And that I just didn't feel this. It just didn't seem fair. And so I started to look around, and I thought, how do I salvage the year? How do I salvage the year for the lodge and make it so that the brothers are still motivated? And I went on to one of the Facebook messenger groups about Freemasonry, and there was a Scottish guy who was doing a Zoom toast, and I thought, well, that's kind of cool. Right. So it was a 9:00 toast. So when the hands are at the square, we lift a glass to absent brethren, and then just shoot the breeze. Yep. It might be a Masonic chat, might be just whatever. Right. And I thought, that's really neat. And I went on, and it was 3:00 in the afternoon here when it was 9:00 at night in Scotland, right? Right. And I went into that group.
Which actually kind of works out for us, because the hands are also at a square at 3:00 here.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, I guess it was fate. Right. Perfect. Yeah, that was pretty cool. It was funny. I went into that Zoom room, and they said, "Mr. McGuigan, what's your sport?" Right. And I said, "Hurling." And they said, "Hurling? What's that?"
Push stones?
I said, "Hurling, it's an Irish sport. I'm surprised you haven't really heard about it. I mean, you're in Scotland. You're way closer to Ireland than I am." Right. And I said, "But you guys are into what?" And they said, "We're into rugby." I said, "Oh, hurling is like rugby, but for men." They were like, he's in. Yep.
If you can shit talk the Scots, then
Yep, absolutely. If you can dish it out and you can take it, you're in a really good place. Right. So what I did was I just thought, let's try that here. And it was, I'll never forget this. It was March 27th, 2020. Mm-hmm. We opened our first Zoom room. And so we have been doing the 9:00 toast straight for 5 years, every single night.
Right, which is awesome. I always enjoy myself hopping on there when I get the chance, except for when Andrew also comes on.
You made me do it. You can't be mad. And now I'm going to stick around on Wednesdays, I think.
Well, I can be mad because you brought up the whole baby birding thing.
I'm not going to apologize. It's awesome.
That's hilarious. ChatGPT is a fun toy.
To our listeners who are on our Discord who saw my lovely picture, imagine you're in a Zoom meeting and there's 7 Masons, all who have that as their background behind them.
Torturing me. Absolutely torturing me. The last thing, Jim, that I do want to ask you about while we have you on is you're very active on social media. So if you want to go ahead and plug your social media pages, feel free, go for it. I don't want to dox you if you don't want to have your real name associated with it. That's it's up to you.
He's
already been doxed, I bet.
Probably. Yeah. So I decided a couple years ago I was on a cruise with my wife. It's about 2.5 years ago, and I met a guy who saw my shirt, and he said, "Oh, I'm a Mason too," and he said, "You sound like this guy on TikTok named who goes by Brother Fluff. I'm like, Brother Fluff? Okay, that's a silly name, and what's TikTok? And he explains it, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll go check it out. And I checked it out, and it kind of sounded interesting, and he was right. That's kind of my philosophies for the most part. And so I went ahead and created the My Freemason page. So I'm My Freemason on TikTok, and I've got I really had no idea it was going to take off like this, and there's like 70,000 followers now.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
How much time do you spend a week deleting bot comments? Because I've seen your comment feed, and it is just filled with people from Africa who want to be Masons.
Yeah, I know. Hail the light, and Illuminati stuff. It's nuts. I don't spend a ton of time on it, but I do block a lot of the people who are crazies. So it takes up a fair amount of time, I guess.
It's hard when you have 70,000 followers because you're going to be stuck with all those guys, and you're like, well,
comes with the territory. I've taken to very liberally deleting the crazies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We have fun with it, and I've met a lot of neat people, many of which have actually other good Masons who have come on the 9 o'clock toast as well.
Right. Yep.
So Brother Fluff,
yep.
I actually met him and he came on to the 9 o'clock toast one time.
Well, that's fun.
Right on.
You got to bring Andrew Martins on. Just kidding.
We're going to have to change the link, and I'm not going to send it to you again. Right, yeah.
I'll find a way.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. Well, Jim, thanks very much for popping by for an interview. I know we got another person waiting, so it was great to have you on. Good seeing you this weekend.
Likewise. Thanks, boys.
We'll talk to you later. All right, we got another guest coming on. Brother, can you please introduce yourself and what got you into Masonry?
My name is Mike Marone. I'm from Twin Cities 61 in Neenah. And the thing that got me into Masonry was trying to make myself a better man. I looked into other charity groups. Everybody seemed to, do stuff throughout the community. One thing that stood out with Masonry was the ability to practically learn anything, I would say. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous.
No, you're all good.
It's okay. You're allowed to be nervous. You don't talk on a microphone as much as we do.
Right. I was just turning up my headset volume so I could hear better because I'm half deaf. So
yeah. But one thing about other charities is kind of you do the thing, and then you go home. With Masonry, you got fellowship all the time. You can make yourself a better man because the people around you are all the best type of people. It seems like everybody around wants to be the best version of themselves. And so I actually, pluraling at Watoma Lodge.
Love the Watoma boys.
Yeah. They got me kind of into Masonic education. I went to the St. John's the Baptist dinner before I petitioned my current lodge.
Oh, okay. So you were there last year then at St. John's.
Yeah. I recognized you.
Yeah, I don't think we had a chance to chat.
Yeah.
But we saw each other there. Yeah.
And then about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I went to the MCME conference in Indianapolis with Adam.
Yeah.
And met RJ Johnson and hung out with him and stuff. And just the educational part of Masonry is so amazing. And so many things I want to say. And, not only can you learn how to just be a better man, a lot of the people in the well-mannered and good character people seem to gravitate to the fraternity.
Yep.
So you kind of just become a better man because you have all those people around you. And a lot of the times in life, we learn through our mistakes. But in Masonry, it kind of gives you the chance to almost, I wouldn't say skip those experiences, but if you know ahead, hey, I got to be more careful in this, or this person went through this, and I wish I would have done it this way. Those things. Listening to your elders can.
Oh yeah, they're full of wisdom and advice.
Hopefully, they don't get too mad at hearing that.
That's fine.
They know what they are.
How long have you been a Master Mason now?
I was raised in January.
Okay, so not even quite 6 months yet then, or right around the 5 month, 6 month mark. Right on. So this is obviously then your first time at annual communication. How's that experience been for you so far, being here in Madison for this?
It's an awesome experience. Again, the fellowship is a cool part. I love the fact in Grand Lodge, the different perspectives that everybody gives, and the fact that we have to almost listen to them. Not saying that we don't want to.
Right.
But, you have to hear these people out, and there was a couple times in there where, I heard someone give their side to a thing, and I thought I had, aligned myself with that, only to hear, one man came up and said I had a traumatic brain injury, and that's why I would like to have, access to this book.
Right.
Like those kinds of situations. And it makes you think, step out of your own shoes and be, hey, that's my brother.
Yeah.
How would he feel?
Yeah, empathize. Yeah.
Well, and it can get interesting because, like, I wasn't voting. I was just in there paying attention to everything. And I heard one person stand up and talk, and I was like, oh, I leaned that way. And then the next person came up and talked, and I was like, nope, never mind, I'm back on that side. Like,
Yep.
Like, all right, cool.
I'm such a punch that it's for me. It's like whoever's the most recent person who talked. I'm like, I agree with him now. And someone else talks, like, maybe I agree with him now. And like, whoever talks last is getting my vote.
All right, so now I know how to sway your vote. All right,
dude,
cool.
so easy. Well, that's a good point too, I guess.
I know the Andrew hack. Just be the last one to talk.
Yeah. The ADHD doesn't let me remember the other ones. I'm sold, baby.
That's awesome. Well, do you have any questions?
Oh, I was going to tell you, the quote that we like to use, what you're describing is, as iron sharpens iron, one good man sharpens another, is the one. I think you'll pull that out of your pocket now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's my elder wisdom to you. You'll take that one around.
That one very much so applies to Freemasonry, So, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Of course.
Glad to have you here. Glad you're getting the full Masonic experience as quickly as you are, and it'll be fun to see you around.
He's done a lot in 6 months. It sounds like,
I'm sure I'll see you guys around.
Oh yeah, I have a hunting property up in Watoma, so I'm up there every now and then.
You'll hear from me. Appreciate you guys having me on.
You're welcome. Nice seeing you, brother. We'll catch you around. All right, so that wraps up the first episode of our annual communication interviews. That was a lot of fun, huh, Matt?
Always is. Enjoy talking to new brothers I've met before. Pretty much enjoy talking to anybody we put on a microphone.
Yeah, it's been great. And, we have a lot more content coming up, I'm sure, on the next episode. So, yeah, to our listeners, I hope you enjoyed these rapid fire interviews. And on the next episode, you're going to get a lot more interesting brothers as we continue to talk to people at Annual Communication.
Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.